Prehistoric people around the world chose to recreate nature through their art. And of course, the big question is why? I think we have this stereotype about prehistoric people as always being on the verge of starvation, always thinking about their next meal. And what we see 40, 50, 60,000 years ago in different parts of the world is that people actually lived quite rich lives. And we see that they're using their imagination, creativity, and in fact, even sense of humor in a lot of ways in the art that they're creating. The panel of the spotted horses is one of my favorite in all of cave art, and I've seen it reproduced 1,000 times in books and slides, but there's nothing like being in front of it. You see the colors, you see the textures. It's just completely different being right here. And then, of course, there are the handprints. For me, that's what really connects me to the art, because I look at those hands, and those are human. That's what connects us to the people who made these 25,000 years ago. Wow. One of the most important panels at Peshmeral is this one here, the Black Frieze. It was drawn about 25,000 years ago, and that I still have to try and get my mind around. And when you first look at it, it looks like this jumble of images. If you look at it really carefully, you'll see it's actually a bunch of different animals superimposed. So you have horses and bison and wild cattle, and actually my absolute favorite, the mammoths. This mammoth in particular is phenomenal for me because, again, you've got this really simple contour. You know immediately, just from that little dip here, that it's a mammoth. But beyond that, the artist has also chosen to show the shagginess of its coat, right? And you can see that it actually kind of bends in one direction. It's almost as if there's wind or something that is, moving that coat as it's walking across the plain. And so you get this sense of movement. And this would have been even enhanced by the stone lamps or the torches they brought with them, the kind of flickering light, the same as if you were sitting around a campfire, that kind of flickering light. If you apply that to the images on the cave walls, it really does give them this sense of motion, and it's magical. So I think we have to remember that creating art in a cave is not easy. They wouldn't have had all the benefits of electric light as we do. They would have perhaps brought with them torches, or they would have brought stone lamps. They would have also had to collect all the pigments that they were going to use to make the art. And then walking over difficult terrain that might have been slippy if it was wet outside. So all of these sorts of challenges in order to make the images that we're experiencing today. For me, the most compelling explanation is that these images were probably part of an oral storytelling tradition. Clearly, these people were incredibly knowledgeable about their natural environment. They knew the animals that they were painting. They also knew the kinds of materials that they were using for these paints. I mean, they made paints. They collected pigments and followed recipes when they were making their paints. They weren't just making pretty pictures, but they were actually storing knowledge outside their bodies. It gives it permanence. It's there for future generations. They brought that knowledge with them. As I make my way through the world, I'm not relying just on myself, but I'm actually relying on the knowledge of those in my community and all of those who came before me. And this is something that archaeologists refer to as cumulative culture. Really, storytelling is not the product of cumulative culture, but it's actually the vehicle for it. It's this grand total, this sum of all of the knowledge that we have that we then pass on from generation to generation over time. And that's what allowed humans to really adapt to all different kinds of environments as they moved out into the rest of the globe.